Hey everyone, how are you doing? Well, thank you so much for coming to listen to some stories in this stunning fabulous bookshop that is Lighthouse. My name's Niall.
My name's Minnie.
And we have some tales. We have 4 stories between us. I'm doing a sort of part 1, part 2 kind of vibe, and Minnie has 2 gorgeous bird stories. We are basically not your grandma's folk tales. We are stories that either we've rewritten or completely reworked, and we hope that your grandma's never told you them quite this way if they told you them in this way. We have the wonderful Tom Birch on multiple stringed instruments. Very good, so definitely can't get in advance. And aside from that, we're very, very grateful for choosing us at the Fringe Festival. We hope you have a wonderful one tonight. Thank you so much for coming. I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant. So I thought we would kick off this evening with a Norse story. The Norse stories. I guess you can't go far wrong with it. We've got an edit for you today. So sagas, as you might know, stories are ordinary people like you and I, and edits are stories. And there are a few gods and goddesses in our tale tonight. We've got Thor. You've heard of Thor, two gods in Australia. We know who we are. You've got Freya. You might have heard of Freya. Most people know that she is a love goddess who's often associated with things like fertility, but not everyone remembers that she's also a war goddess. So I like to think of her as the goddess of passion, because you need that to do both things. But this story begins the way all good Norse stories do, with Loki. You miserable bastard, what the fuck have you done? Oh, hey Thor, how's it going? Don't give me that, Loki. I know it was you. Talking about my hammer. The great Niall, and I know it was you. I went as if it was there, all hammer was gone. I know it's you, Loki, because you are the god of this. Well, it's true, I do like this. It is my favourite thing. So it wasn't me. And there are 3 good reasons why it wasn't me. Okay, number 1, I am the reason you have that hammer in the first place, so why would I want to steal? Number 2, I was with Odin all last night and I couldn't have nicked it because he didn't notice. Well, he wouldn't have noticed, but I didn't nick it because number 3, that hammer is really fucking heavy. So I couldn't have lifted it up on my own, even if I wanted to. No, whoever's taking your hammer, it must be someone, you know, someone quite sort of big and strong, someone quite, you know, a bit kind of massive, a bit like one almost might say giant. Right, how are you doing? You're looking out. You're looking excellent. Anyway, the thing is, Thor's hammer has been stolen. No, whatever it is, Loki, I don't want to get involved. I'm not getting involved at all. I'm asking it. No. Because the last time I got involved with one of your schemes, Loki, I nearly ended up married to a frost giant. Got you out of that marriage, didn't I? You got me into it, Loki. Now, what do you want? Well, as we're saying, Thor's hammer had been stolen. And we're thinking it must have been someone strong, right? So it's probably one of the giants. So I was just going to go all the way over to Jotunheim and see if I can get it back. Yeah? What's that got to do with me? Well, you know how you've got that cloak, you know, your amazing cloak. It's made out of feathers and it lets you fly. I was wondering if I could just borrow it just for a minute, just to pop over to Jotunheim. Well, I'm not sure about that, Loki. I don't think I really want to be involved with this. Oh, but it's such a long way to Jotunheim. I'm like, well, it's all legs, they will get tired. It's not way to Jotunheim. And it'll be much better for the story, won't it, if I can have a cloak that makes you fly. Imagine this, right? Imagine. And then beings reflected off the feathers, and all these down below went, wow, what a dynamic creature travel. You're gonna have to cloak now. So Loki put on the cloak, and it was a pixie, all the way to John. And then in the frost, with snow and ice, Loki found the chief, the Jarl, the king of the giants, Thorin. And Loki said, hey, you look excellent. Anyway, Thor's hammer seems to have gone missing, and he just wondered if you might know where it could be. Yep, I've seen it, I've nicked it, and I've buried it deep underground where you'll never ever find it. Can we have it back? Yeah, you can have it back, Loki, but you can only have it back if I can marry Grey. shit. Right, Thor, Freya, okay, this is what's happened. No. Did I mention no? There is absolutely no way that I am marrying some random frost giant I have never met. And I'll give you 3 good reasons why not. Okay, number 1, I've got a sort of blanket policy not to get involved with any of your shenanigans these days. So, number 2, I've actually already got my eye on someone down on Midgard. Killian Murphy. I went to see Oppenheimer last week. It's really ocean eyes. Anyway, number 3, it's only a. And if you want it back so much, Thor, then why don't you marry? She's not the worst, don't you? Right, so Thor, you put on this sort of nice linen dress, and I'm going to put on this, as you said, very nice purple silky number. Okay, I think you've forgotten who I am. You know, this story's old, right? You know, Thor. He's about the manliest man that you've ever met. And so, of course, when he was handing the dress, he said, "Why do I get the shit one?" I said, "I'm important God and the thunder, for goodness sake. I want the nice dress." No, it's not shit. It's not shit, Thor. It's bridal. It is much more bridal. Right, so we put the dresses on, and then we kill everyone. No. Put the dresses. You put the veil on, I'll put a veil on. You put on Freya's cloak. Everyone will think that you're Freya, going to marry Thrym, and I'm Freya's friend, come to help you marry Thrym. We'll go to Jotunheim, they'll give you a hammer, and then you'll get your hammer back. Wouldn't it all be easier for me to just kill everyone? No. Oh, well, yes, but also a lot less fun. Go on. Love mischief. It's my favourite thing. So, Loki put on a very nice silky purple dress, and Thor put on the white one and the veil, and Freya's cloak, which is amazing and lets you fly. So, of course, very dramatically, they launched into the sky with the wind, the veil, the dress, and they landed in Jotunheim, and of course the giants saw it was Freya and Freya's mate come to make the wedding happen. So they were ushered into the mead hall, the likes of which you have never seen. A mead hall like this, the giant mead hall. And there, for a wedding, there was singing, there was dancing, there was fortune telling, there was storytelling, and there was food. Oh, Thor was in his element. There were tacky scones, there were baked beans, you love baked beans. There was a whole mass of profitable that Thor was putting into his mouth, one after the other, after the other, after the other. So Thor, right? No, it's being Freya. I think you'll find, Loki, that there are plenty of women who have very hearty appetites, and there's nothing at all wrong with it. Well, yeah, good point. But you're showing your beard a bit under your veil. And I think you'll find, Loki, that there are plenty of women and non-binary people. Yes, but not Freya, though. I mean, she would look great with a beard. Maybe she'll try it one day, but she doesn't have one now. Who knows that? Just calm down. Sorry, I'm just feeling a bit of out of sorts because I really love my hammer. It's my favourite thing. Then, of course, they reached the moment in the wedding when the hammer was broken. You remember from all the weddings you've been to in England? and then they bring out and it links to the sunlight. They take it over to the front and they place it so carefully, reverently into the bride's hand. And when it was placed into the hand, Thor said, "Mjolnir! My muscle is reunited at last! What? Before I saw this heavy hammer, hardly left it. I'm afraid." Well, believe it or not, Thrym didn't bite. Neither did the other giants. They realised they were being tricked. And first, a little frown came over Thrym's face. And then this rage bubbled up inside him and bubbled up, and he screamed with Thor and Loki, and there was half of there, there was punching, there was kicking, there was with his He spoke at his back, one hand with the hammer and the other hand scooped around Loki's waist. Thor launched up into the sky, and the giants were almost knocked out with thinking about it. And as they were flying all the way back home to Asgard, Loki said, "Oh, works then, got your hammer back, brilliant, thanks for getting us out of there, but did you have to go quite so hard? I mean, I think that giant might actually be dead." "Yes, I did, Loki. And there are 3 reasons why. Number 1, they started it. Number 2, they wanted to marry Freya without even asking her about it, and I don't think that's very nice. And number 3, I really love my hammer, it's my favourite thing."
Would you give the man of many instruments a moment? Are you saying that, you know, oh, yeah, no, we don't need to give the man of many instruments a moment. We're all good. The man of many instruments, of many instruments? The man of many instruments is the man without words. And I have words, and I will say them now. So, my story, I'll get that. My story is a sort of part 1, part 2 kind of vibe. So, it is sequentially reasonable. Here is part 1. This story starts with a woman who held the weight of the world on her shoulders. In a clearing, looking at a single figure, sat very still and very quiet. And that's actually the end of part 1. So going back to the beginning, it wasn't always Aslan's job to hold the weight of the world on her strong brown shoulders. Once she had been a lumberjack. She had loved working in the woods. She always knew when a tree was ready to be felled, as if the forest would tell her. And she loved spending time there with the spring. To them, she would read poetry. With the bears, she would sit very quietly. And to the birds, she would sing. Her singing was quite bad, but the birds loved it anyway. And Asenath, living in a small log cabin on the edge of the forest she might have thought was lonely, but with the forest folk, she was happy. But sometimes, as many of us do, she enjoyed wandering into town. And she enjoyed sitting at a bar with a dram of whiskey. And on this day, with a dram of whiskey in her hand, she met eyes with someone. And that someone met eyes with her. And as those two were meeting eyes with each other, Carol came over and sat down by Asenath. And Carol started talking to Asenath. And Asenath was quite nervous, but another whiskey was sorted out. And conversation was flowing, laughter was coming from both of their mouths. And then an Irish bouzouki player started playing double quick time. And Carol loved to dance. And Carol and Asenath were dancing. Now Asenath didn't dance. And another whiskey didn't sort it out. They got Asenath dancing. And they were moving beautifully together. And they were moving, dancing, eyes locked on each other. They couldn't help it. They found that their faces were moving toward one another. And they kissed. As they kissed, they held hands and moved, walking back together amongst lamp-lit streets on cold cobbles back to Asenath's. And there they danced more, but a very special dance that only grown-ups can dance. Sex. You got your grandma's folk tales, I hope. Anyway, Asenath and Carol fell in love. And together they built a life. Asenath had never wanted for more than the forest, but now Carol was here. She was happier. And they would take together long walks on the beach. And for these long walks, they had bought a small dog, a dachshund named Colin. And they would tell each other stories by the fire. And as the stars would wink open, they would count 1, 2, 3. And Asenath was happier than she'd ever been. And so, of course, because this is a story that had to change. And one day, the world changed. Great God of the sky, who you may not have met, and if you haven't, he's a bit of a dick. He announced to all of humanity, right, this world, weight of the world business, pretty heavy for me, even though I made it sure I can hold it. I'm bored with it. One of you idiots is going to have to do it. I'm done with this stuff. So it was that the weight of the world was placed down, and humans were going to have to come and hold it up. And the first to decide that they were the correct people to do it were, of course, rich white straight men. A prince from the east appeared and decided that I will do it, no bother at all, don't mind me. Gonna, whoa, that is pretty heavy. And then a remarkably old man, unfathomably old, hobbled over. Don't mind me, don't ask why I'm Northern Ireland. Don't mind me, I'm just gonna have me go back in my day. Used to live weight of the world all the time. Just oh me mask on. People came from here, there, and everywhere, and none could do it. The weight of the world was resting. Great God of the sky said, well, if none of you can do it, you're just all gonna die. Not my problem. Then, that's the last reason that if everyone else had had a go, couldn't have to try. She was a lumberjack with strong, square, round shoulders, and she found that the weight of the world fit quite easily upon her. And so it was that it was Asila's job, hers to carry. And because this is a story, she could still walk on the world, and she headed back to that log cabin on the edge of the forest. And when she reached the door, Carol and Colin must have been out. And with the weight on her shoulders, she realized that no matter which angle she tried, she couldn't fit through the doorway. And it occurred to her, what was she doing? She had brought this weight, the literal weight of the world, to those that she loved more than any other. And she couldn't do it. So, without a word, she turned left. And she went for many, many miles. She wandered through deltas, the waters lapping the edge of the thighs. She walked up. She walked over snowy mountain ridges, and she walked through forests. And often Asilas came across people, and sometimes those people needed help. In one forest there was one man. A tree had fallen and landed upon him. And he, of course, was calling out for help, and Asilas, well, she took the weight of the world under her left arm and lifted the tree with her right. The man was so brave. He thanked her profusely and offered to carry the weight of the world just for a little while, because as much as she looked strong, it must be hard. But Asilas explained that the weight of the world was hers to carry alone, and she didn't thank him for doing it. So she kept going through wildflower meadows. She kept going over cliffs and looking up at great splendid cliff faces out to the sea. Waves rippling in the great distance, looking to sea. And at sea one day, she saw a man, because often the Asilas came across people and they needed help. And he was brave. And Asilas swam out with the weight of the world under her right arm. She swam out with her left. And when she reached this man back to shore, he was coughing and spluttering. He thanked her profusely and explained that the weight of the world looked heavy, with bags under her eyes. Could you hold it just for a while to say thanks? And Asilas, of course, though she thought of long walks on the beach with Colin, and she thought of sunset and telling stories by the fire. The weight of the world was hers alone. She didn't do that. And she walked, but a little slower, because her knees hit, and her back was bending, and the weight of the world weighed heavy movement. And as she kept moving, she saw great rainforests and jungles, sunken temples and civilizations that seem to work and merge into the fabric of the world. Eventually, she came to a clearing. And in that clearing, as I said, was a person. That person sat very still, very quiet. They looked so sad. So Asalas sat next to them and asked if they would like quiet company for a while. And the person nodded gently. And so Asalas sat and waited. She listened to their silence as autumn leaves fell down golden at the ground. And she sat and listened to their silence as the winter snows and frosts came and made the ground soft and hard at the same time. She sat and listened to their silence as the first shoots of spring daffodils, its heralds, calling out the sun would return soon. And she sat and listened to their silence as the hot summer sun blazed. And as that first new leaf of autumn started to turn brown, and the trees made their annual trip to the hairdressers to dye their hair, the person turned to Asana and began to talk. And what they said, I will tell you.
I'll give Tom a minute to set himself up, and while he's doing that, I will tell you that, in case you don't know, I am half Kiwi. I think this. And I don't know if you know this about New Zealand, but it's on the other side of the world. So it being midsummer here, it's winter there. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a celebration called Matariki. Matariki is the name of a constellation. The Greeks called it the Pleiades, the Aboriginal people called it Seven Sisters, you might have heard of it before, but the Maori people of New Zealand, Aotearoa, call it Matariki. And it's visible in the southern hemisphere in sky for most of the year, but it disappears for about a month in the winter. And the day that it returns and it's visible in the sky is called Matariki. And this tradition has been celebrated for hundreds of years, but only 2 years ago, so this was the second year that it was officially a public holiday in all of New Zealand. And I just thought it's funny, isn't it, how these traditions kind of get lost. Well, not lost, but changed. And if you were to go to a particular coast on the North Island of New Zealand, on Matariki, a day for celebration, or singing, dancing, storytelling, name saying, you might find a sculpture. Well, is it a sculpture? It's hard to tell. It's a rock that could almost be a head, but it's difficult to work out whether someone made it that way or whether that's just it. Perhaps you would go to the very edge of the top. And while you stand on Matariki night, you might think of the last year, all the things that you've found and that you've lost. And you might come to feel that you weren't quite alone. You might feel present, just pass by your shoulder, off the edge of the cliff. But if you were to look down into the water, no splash, just that great glowing orb of the night sky. That was Rona's first love. People said that the moonlight was cold, but Rona had never thought so. She always felt warmed by it when it enveloped. And it was so bright. It helped light her way in the darkness. It never ever failed her. And when she looked up at Te Marama, she felt sure that it was looking back at her, smiling with love. Rona's second love was Te Moana, the ocean. Oh, when she stood on her waka, the prow of her boat, she could control the waves. That's how it felt to her. She could make her boat go wherever she wanted to, in sync with the rising and falling of the tides. And she laughed as the salty spray splashed on her dark brown skin. Rome's third love was Niall. He was a man. And they got on so well together. They made each other laugh, proper belly laughs. There was passion between them. There was fire in their eyes. But they say opposites attract, and Rona and Niall really were opposites. Where Rona was wild and free, and Niall was strong, steady, steadfast. And Anaru did not love Temoana like Rona did. He got sleepish. And so, because Rona loved him, they reached a compromise. For a while at least, they would live on land. They would settle and try to make a life. So Rona pulled her waka out of Temoana, covered it with a canvas on the sand, and left it. And she and Naru built a house together. They found community and they lived. But they say opposite was right. And they really were opposites. And they argued. First, it wasn't arguments. First, it was just a thing. And they started bickering. And they did start fighting. And these tiny little things, these small little things, one after the other, they build up and build up and build up into something so huge. And I don't know what it was in the end. But in the end, that big thing turned into something so small. That last thing, that last little chink between them that split them apart. And Rona lost the moral. And she was upset. She was heartbroken, but that heartbreak, that love that didn't have anywhere to go, it turns to anger. So she slammed the door behind her and she walked out of the house. She walked all the way down to the waves. She pulled the camera off her waka, pushed it into Temoana, and she started to row and sail. But it had been a long time since she was on this boat. It was a long time since she had been on the water, and she couldn't quite find her rhythm with the tides anymore. She couldn't quite make the waka do what she wanted to, and she felt that even the sea was against her. The waves tonight were so big, they rise up and up and up, and they capsized her out of the boat. She was fluttering around in the water, and she was trying to find it. She was trying to upturn it to get back into it, but it was dark. The sky was clouded over. She couldn't even see Temarama, and you abandoned me too. Temarama heard Rona. Could Rona possibly think that Temarama had abandoned her? Temarama loved Rona. So Temarama reached down with its cold hand and embraced her. Even in her anger and her heartbreak, scooped her up, out of the water, up into the sky, and held her. And Rona was warmed by the light. And eventually she could someone. But Temarama could tell that she was still unhappy. And so Temarama gave Rona a gift. 2 bright, shining, neon glowing ropes were placed into Rona's hand. And they stretched all the way down back to earth, to Temoana. And when Rona moved them this way or that way, she found that she could control them. These ropes of light, they connected her to Temoana. She found it again. She could control it. They were as one as they had been before. And that's where Rona stayed, up there, with Temoana. And sometimes when she looked down to earth, she saw a narrow. She wasn't as upset or angry. Just smiled. And sometimes a narrow would see her. Smile back. And that's where she stayed. There. Perhaps you'd see, if you're standing in that particular cliff top, matter regionally, perhaps you'd see her. And perhaps you would feel that you're not quite alone. Perhaps you would feel the spirit of all those who passed away. As their names are said, they come out from where they've been hiding, the land of the dead. You might have your idea about the land of the dead and what it's like. Perhaps you imagine it to be cold, dark. But it's true, isn't it? That no spirit has ever chosen to return to the land of the living once they've passed over the dark. On Matariki, when their names are said, they pass over the edge of the cliff. But they will fall up, all the way up to where Tamarama and Ronan still sit. And there they glisten. The far now Marama's fun. So, if there is something that you have lost, someone in the last year, hold them close and speak their name and look up. Perhaps you will find that you haven't lost them after all. They're up there, listening, with you.
Well, Tom, good. Basically, just want to say that thank you so much for listening to these stories. We both work on a lot of longer form stuff now, and we do a kids show together. We don't often actually just get the space to tell shorter stories, but we still love so much, and I guess both of us through storytelling, and to know each other. So it's such a privilege. I should say thank you very much. What do you think? So, I left you with Asalas in a clearing, having sat with a person in silence for such a long time. And I left you at the moment that that person opened their mouth to speak. And when they did, what they did was they told a story. Now, this story also doesn't start quite at the start. It starts with a person sat looking out at the sea at sunset. Sky, a gorgeous iridescent blend of pinks, saffrons, and gold. And the sun dipping down over the horizon, blue towards the sea, sparkling and turquoise. And around them, the hills rolling green, like waves themselves, rushing to meet one another. And this person looked out at all this. I couldn't help but feel its pain. Couldn't help but feel the urge. They wanted to capture this moment, to hold it close. And they couldn't help but let their fingers extend and crease the edge of the image described. And as they just moved their fingers ever so slightly more, the image did crease. And as they did so just a little bit more, the image turned into cloth. Cloth that they were able to fold into something they could simply stick in their back pocket. And the image of the sunset I just described was gone. And what was there quite simply wasn't. You'd never known anything was missing because nothing had been there at all. And what was there? Because we sat in the thief's pocket. And the thief walked not into a sunset, but with one and went. Now this thief, their story starts much further. Back for them when they were a child. You see, they were born to a mother who was from here and a father who was from there. And for whatever reason, they found this hard, found that they never felt like they quite fit in the world that they were in. And as they grew up, they started to learn about the world around them, and that they learned that the world around them wasn't quite for them. And one of the most important ways in which they realized this was that they were not a man or a woman. They realized that they were something else entirely. They were themselves, but where that was, and having a mother who was from here and a father who was from there, made life dangerous. And it made life so dangerous that they felt they would have to leave. And so they did. They left. And often, when we carry such deep rejection with us, finding connection and community can be difficult. And our thief, they found that they were unable to make harmony. And so instead, they lived alone in solitude. And in their solitude, they realized that they had done something. They had wrinkled the fabric of reality around them with being something that was not man or woman. And in doing so, when they really thought about it, they realized that reality was something that they could fix and crinkle. And say there was an image, something they liked the look of, well, they could just use it to the point where it was easily foldable, like a crop, and walk away with it. So they moved into a sunken temple, deep within a jungle. And this sunken temple, they had a gondola in that they would push themselves around, looking at the tapestries of the images they had taken from their travels. And these tapestries had images like our sunset. They had busy market square, towns, castles, more temples, more people, more animals. Now our thief knew that what they were doing was slack. You see, the people trapped inside these images were just that. They were safe, unharmed, but unable to go anywhere else. And those that loved them didn't even know they existed. But it was the only way they could find solace, the only way they could find community and comfort and this sort of gift to find them something. Now, because this is a story, all was this way for a long time. There was something to check. One day, our thief found themselves sat on a gorgeous cobbled street. Chatter and cigarette smoke laced the air, the clinking of glasses. Conversation were being struck up by people who were spilling out onto the street, sat in gorgeous little chairs, and they were talking long into the summer. There was a sort of haze in the sky. And the thief was sipping on, I'm sure, a fashionable cocktail, the fantastical equivalent of that broad street. And they were enjoying it very much. And they were enjoying the image in front of them very much. Chatter of people washing over them like gentle waves, they felt. Even though they were alone, they didn't feel that. So, of course, they could. Did you see, this image was quite spectacular. With the golden sun silhouetted at the far end of that cobbled street was a ruined abbey, overgrown with plant life. It was quite spectacular, all crumbling. And they started to do this edge, a little more, a little more. What the fuck are you doing? Thundered down as a voice from on high. How fucking dare you? That is my favorite amphitheater. The great god of the skies, voice booming down. You and me, duel right now. The thief found themselves magically transported to the center of this amphitheater. Around them, they looked up. They could feel its history drifting down. Great fights, great victories, great battles. And in front of them stood the great god of the sky. And he was a man. And the great god of the sky stood tall and proud and said, "Look, you, that is my favorite animal. I don't know what you were doing, but I am not letting you take it. This is the place that I've won my most famous battles. This is where I defeated the bull himself. This is where I defeated the wave herself. And this is where I defeated Big Day. So I can't let you take it. You and me, two, right now. Choose your way." And the great god of the sky materialized in front of him. A massive hammer, not quite like Thor's hammer. And a musician appeared from nowhere playing a fabulous little tune to give them atmosphere, more atmosphere. The great god of the sky had his colourful phallic symbolic hammer. And the thief, they saw the hammer and they chose to grow an ivy sort of cape. And his caping looked like a metaphor. Every swing frame with the sky made a deep managed touch. And so the great god of the sky changed hands. He manifested a great, massive sword, again quite phallic, it was very watchable. The great god of the sky took that sword, he hacked it through the little king. And the thief needed the big quick. They made themselves into a trailing of feathers, and these feathers were so tightly interwoven, so iridescent and unblinking, that the great god of the sky tried to hack through them, could not. That's his way. And so instead, he thought, "I'm quite rude, why not just use this?" And the great god of the sky resorted to fix it, and the cake was no good for the king. It produced a single white mountain flower, but they had made a critical error. Because what is a single white mountain flower in the face of this? The flower was knocked from their hand and a punch landed on their jaw. A thief crashed to the ground. The great god of the sky looked down at them and said, "That was close. Fair fight. But now I get whatever the hell this crinkly business is. I don't want you doing that anymore. Can't be taking my stuff. Come, it is gone. You may try again, but it will cost you everything." And the thief felt their power to wrinkle the edges of reality around them disappear, and with it they worried they had lost their capacity to be something that was not a man or a woman, someone themselves. And they looked at the great god of the sky and asked, why would he take that from them? And the great god of the sky looked down and said, "God, I would never take that from you. If anything, that kind of stuff makes you much sexier. I just can't have you touching my shit. Cool, me. See you later." And the great god of the sky was gone. And the thief, as much as they knew they were still themselves, were troubled by it. They had lost their capacity for community and comfort, even though they knew it was a little bit wrong. It was the only community and comfort they had known. And they had lost part of themselves, and they worried about what other people might take from them. And they wandered off into the world, desolate. And eventually they found themselves a clearing. And in that clearing, they sat for a very long. Until eventually, they were joined by someone, a woman with the weight of the world on her shoulders. And she sat and waited with them and listened for as long as it took. The seasons to change, eventually to feel like they were ready to go. And they told Asenath the story I have just told you. And Asenath said, "Thank you. It's kind of weird you told it in third person, but thank you." The thief and Asenath had an hour. Asenath looked at the thief looked at Asenath and asked the thief asked, "So tired, and the weight of the world is weighing so heavy, and I know I have one more. I have one more capacity to wrinkle the fabric of reality. Have it in. You just let me. I could turn it into cloth, and then it would sit in my pocket, yours not to carry anymore, and it would be light as a feather." Yeah. Asenath looked back at the thief, because she had heard the story. That might cost the thief everything. How dare they risk everything to help her carry a burden that was hers alone? She didn't need repaying for doing what was right. Asenath left. And she walked. And as she walked, she knew something had to change, because her knees really were giving. Her back was bent and in pain, and every step was angry. She had heard of a witch in the northwest mountains that might be able to turn her to stone. And she hoped that in her stone form she could hold the weight of the world on her shoulders forever. No one's problem, just her. And she walked up hillsides, and she walked over slow, small mountains. She walked past cliffs, and on the edge, precipice of one cliff, her knees gave way, her back bent, the weight of the world tumbled off, and it fell off the edge. And Asalas despaired because of her. The world was to end. She had failed. The world didn't end. Asalas looked over the edge of the precipice of that cliff and saw a thief holding the weight of the world. And the man from the sea, and the man from the forest, and another person, and another person, and another person. For they had told their friends, and their friends had told their friends. And together, everyone had realized they had to do something. And together, everyone had caught the weight of the world. And Asalas collapsed, broken by her efforts. The witch of the northmost mountains appeared, picked her up in her strong arms, and carried Asalas home, whispering, "I would have never." And the witch of the northmost mountains knew of Asalas. And so she asked the squirrels, what would Asalas do? And they spoke about poetry. So the witch read Asalas freely. And the witch asked the bears about Asalas. And the bears said that Asalas liked to sit with us. And so the witch sat with Asalas. And the witch asked the birds about Asalas. The birds explained that Asalas used to sing quite badly, but we still liked it. And so the witch sang to Asalas. She couldn't help but sing well, but it didn't. Because eventually Asalas was good for singing. And the great god of the sky waved back. This is all very poetic and nice, but ultimately it doesn't stop shit. What the fuck are we doing this? Some of you need to do something. One of you is going to have to hold it. Asalas rejuvenated often constantly. And after multiple negotiations, the people agreed on the grounds that Asalas would only work a 4-day working week. And Asalas agreed to this. And on her first 3-day weekend, the length of weekend we should all have, Asalas set off home. She walked back. She walked to the log cabin. When she got to the door, she knocked. And Carol opened. And Asalas said, 900,000, 990,000 billion. Asalas said, start. I counted them. Asalas said, no, I don't stars, but I hope it's a great night. And Carol asked Asalas why she'd gone. And Asalas explained about the weight of the world being too big to fit. And Carol smiled and wiped a single tear on the cheek and said, maybe bigger. But you're here. And so that is Asalas and Carol walked to a pond and a beach sunset. And as they walked, they were watched. They were watched by the king. The king saw saffron, pink and gold, digging down over the horizon blue to the turquoise sparkling sea. And the hills rolling green around them, and those 3 figures perfect, and as they should be. And it's so easy. They needed to find a new way of building that sense of belonging. And they found much with surprise. Anything they took image in front of them. They folded gently. They placed it on their back pocket. And then they put their paintbrushes and pencil away. And as they walked away, at exactly the same time, the stars started to open. And in the same time, Asalas and Carol, they started to count. Thank you very much for coming and listening to stories. It really does mean the world to get to tell them. So we have one more night here at British Festival in the gorgeous Lighthouse Bookshop. Huge round of applause for Lighthouse Bookshop. They are the most gorgeous, fantastic community space. We couldn't put this show on without them, so we're so grateful and interesting to work. Thank you for listening to us. This show is a pay what you want show. You may have already bought a ticket. That's absolutely grand if you have. But if you fancy, on the way out, we have a card machine. We'll have a little bucket as well. If you have anything that you'd like to donate, that would be amazing. As much as we know times are tough as well, so please don't worry if you can. But because times are tough, it costs money to put art on and things like that. So it really would mean the world if we could make that. Well, we're on our way. But yeah, it would mean the world if we can make that some of the money we put on to put this show on. So we'll be at the front if you do have anything to give. I think the average price of French ticket these days is about £12–13. We've priced them at around the tenner on our website. But honestly, anything you have would be absolutely worth. Genuinely from us, please tell your friends. Go on social media and stuff if you enjoyed it. So I'm tomorrow. So last night we'd love it to be